Have you ever hesitated in the middle of a conversation because you weren't sure which verb tense to use? You want to share a story about your life, but you get stuck deciding between saying, "I did it," or "I have done it." It is the most common struggle for English learners. But what if I told you that you can master these two tenses just by listening to a story? Today, I am going to take you through the journey of my life. I'm going to talk about my career, my travels, my health, and my passions. By the end of this video, you won't just know the rules, you will feel the difference. Let's dive into my life story, starting with my work. I started my working life when I was actually quite young. My very first job was in a tiny, busy coffee shop right down the street from my high school. It wasn't a glamorous job. I wiped down sticky tables, I brewed simple coffees, and I chatted with the regulars. I only worked there for about 6 months, but honestly, that short time taught me so much about responsibility and dealing with people. Once I finished university, I knew I needed something more serious. I remember going to interview after interview. It was exhausting. But finally, I found a position teaching English at a language center. I recall my first day vividly. I taught small groups, and I felt incredibly nervous. In fact, my first lesson was a total disaster. I was shaking, I forgot my lesson plan, and the students just stared at me in confusion. But things changed. After a few weeks, I became confident. I realized that teaching was my true passion. Over the next few years, I worked in 3 different schools and eventually moved to a much larger city. That move changed everything. I met students from all over the world, children, teenagers, and adults. I designed my own curriculum and created materials that I was proud of. I even organized weekend conversation clubs to help students practice. That brings me to where I am today. Looking back, I can say that I have learned so much from my students. They have told me about their dreams, their struggles, and their cultures. Because of them, I have become a more patient and understanding person. I have watched shy students transform into confident speakers, and I have read countless messages from people thanking me for changing their lives. Those messages have always made me smile. Now, let's shift gears and talk about travel. Exploring the world has played a massive role in shaping who I am. My first real adventure abroad was a trip to France when I was 19 years old. I went with a close friend from school. We took a rattling night train all the way to Paris and stayed in a very cheap, small hotel. We spent our days visiting museums and walking along the Seine River. That specific trip opened my eyes to how big the world really is. 2 years after that, I spent 3 weeks in Spain. This was different. It wasn't just tourism. I studied Spanish and lived with a local host family. They taught me how to cook authentic Spanish dishes and introduced me to their circle of friends. I danced at local festivals and cheered at football matches in crowded bars. I loved every single second of it. Then, in 2015, I flew to Japan for the first time. I stayed there for nearly a month. I walked through silent, ancient temples, and I even climbed Mount Fuji. It was physically difficult, but standing at the top, I felt an immense sense of pride. So what about my life up until now? Well, over the years, I have visited more than 30 countries. I have stood under the freezing northern lights in Iceland. I have watched the sunrise over vast deserts. I have eaten spicy street food in Thailand and have sailed on the blue waters of Greece. Through these travels, I have met people who invited me into their homes, and I have made friends that I still talk to today. Travel has taught me to be patient when things go wrong. It has taught me to find joy in small moments, a good meal, a beautiful view, or a conversation with a stranger. However, I haven't been everywhere yet. I still haven't seen South Africa, and I haven't explored South America properly. Those are next on my list. Okay, let's pause the story for a second. I want to explain the rules so you can master past tense versus present perfect.
Notice that when I used the past simple, I talked about finished time. I said things like, I visited Japan in 2015, or I worked in London for 5 years, implying I don't work there anymore. The time is closed, it's history. However, when I used the present perfect, I talked about things connected to now. I said, I have visited Japan many times. I didn't say when. It is a life experience that I carry with me. Or when I said, I have worked as a teacher for 15 years. It means I started in the past, and I am still a teacher today.
If you want to get good at English speaking practice, try to tell your own story using this method. Talk about specific events in the past, and then talk about your general life experiences up to now. Let's get back to the story. I want to talk about my health and lifestyle. Honestly, health wasn't something I cared about when I was younger. I ate a lot of fast food and drank way too many sugary sodas. I used to play video games late into the night and sleep for only a few hours. I felt tired and sluggish most of the time, but I didn't change my habits. However, when I turned 25, I decided to make a change. I joined a gym and started running. At first, it was terrible. I couldn't run more than 2 kilometers without stopping, but slowly I improved. After 3 months of training, I ran my first 5K race. I remember crossing that finish line and feeling incredibly proud. I also changed my diet. I stopped eating fast food every day. I started cooking at home, buying fresh vegetables and fruit. I learned how to make simple, healthy meals. Since that turning point, I have kept those habits. I have run many races since then, including a half marathon. I have gone to the gym 3 or 4 times a week for many years now. I have also tried hiking, swimming, and yoga. Each activity has helped me feel stronger. I have also focused on my mind. I have meditated almost every morning for the past 5 years. I have spent time walking in nature without my phone. These things have helped me stay calm in a chaotic world. Of course, I haven't been perfect. There have been weeks where I missed the gym or ate junk food, but I have learned never to give up. I have learned that small habits over a long time change your life.
Finally, let me share a bit about my hobbies and creativity. I discovered my love for music when I was 16. My uncle gave me an old beat-up guitar. I practiced every single evening after school. My fingers hurt so much, but I kept playing. After a year, I could play a few full songs, and that felt amazing. During university, I joined a small band. We played at parties and cafes. It was exciting, and I learned a lot about teamwork. After university, life got busy, and I stopped playing for a few years. But recently, I have started playing again. I have written new songs, and I've performed at small events. It has reminded me why I fell in love with music. I also discovered a passion for food during a trip to Italy. I took a cooking class in Rome and learned to make fresh pasta. Since that day, I have cooked hundreds of meals for my friends and family. I've shared my favorite recipes with them. I have also explored painting and photography. I have taken thousands of photos during my travels. I have read books on philosophy and history. All of these hobbies have made my life richer. I have tried some things that didn't work out too. I tried learning the violin, but I gave up. I joined a dance class, but I quit because I was too shy. But even those failures have taught me something about myself. They have reminded me that learning is always worth the effort. So, that is my story, or at least the important parts of it. I have lived through many experiences. I have made mistakes, and I have learned from them. I have traveled far, and I have grown as a person. When you can tell your story in English like this, you will truly feel that the language belongs to you. I have loved sharing this with you, and I hope we have shared a meaningful moment today. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. If you found this story helpful, please hit that like button. It really helps the video reach more learners like you. And don't forget to subscribe to English Glow for more lessons that make English simple. Bye for now.